Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Professor Ming's Strategic Insights. I remember I devoted one of our August episodes to a very special topic, the coming fourth plenum of the Chinese Communist Party. And now that it's been over, it was held between October the 20th through the 23rd. And prior to that, we mentioned that there are several abnormalities or aberrations about this plenum, this fourth plenum. Let's go back to this official agenda for this fourth plenum. It is a long one. Let me read it out. It is called Outline of the 15th Five-Year Plan for National Economic and Social Development of the People's Republic of China, shortened as a 15th Five-Year Program, or 15-5 as they call it. It's a long document, although it's only a draft, and it's unfinished. It's inviting discussions, criticism, and amendments. But anyway, from what we can see now, I can read out some key points. There are about 5 key points I'd like to mention to you. The first one is, although it's called a plan for China's economic and social development, but actually I read it. Actually, the more I read it, more it sounds to me like a blueprint. A blueprint for China, for Communist China, to compete with the United States, strategically, militarily, economically, and technologically. First thing first, in this document, they put much emphasis on something what we call technological self-reliance and innovation. Actually, technological competition has become the main battlefield between Communist China and the United States. Things like chips, advanced chips, AI technology, and quantum technology, biochemical science, robots, and unmanned vehicles. And the list can go on, but it can at least extend it to things like reconstruction of the production chain and, how should I call it, digital sovereignty. And these are all the important areas where they may have some fierce competition against the United States. Second is, I noticed that they are upgrading their strategy. They put almost equal emphasis on both national development and national security. They talk about things like how to safeguard the security of energy, food, and supply chain. The third point I read from this document is they're very much on guard against the United States, although they don't really say it. You don't see it in any wording or any statement. But if you read between the lines, you can detect it. They're very much worried about the United States technological bans and financial sanctions, and even trade decoupling. So these are something that they pay much attention to. And that's the third point. The key point number 4 is they try to, it seems to me, they try to reconstruct what they call a new type of global economic order. They want to strengthen their capability of the so-called Belt Road Initiative. They want to promote their relationship or their trade relations with the Global South, and their trade relations with markets like African markets, Mid-Asia markets, Latin American markets, and even ASEAN markets in order to replace the missing American market. And something related to that is the internationalization of the renminbi, their national currency, and their so-called de-dollarization in their financial sector. And then also they mentioned something like building the new international rules or regulations concerning technology, digital science, and green economy, and things like that. So from all these points, you can easily detect that they are not just they're not just talking about how to develop China in the future 5 years in domains like economy and society. It's much more to it. They're actually drawing out a blueprint for the competition against the United States or even the Western world. And the last thing I want to mention from this document is They also put much emphasis on how to boost their domestic consumption. As we mentioned to you before, the domestic consumption in China is much lower than that or than those of the leading economies. For instance, United States domestic consumption contributes about 68, probably a little bit more than that, 68 to 69% of their GDP. And for the UK is 61%. For France, it's 53%. For Germany, it's 52%. But for Communist China, it's only 39%. So if you want to reach that kind of level, there's a long way to go. And besides, domestic consumption is something that you can rely on. Should there be any serious conflict with foreign countries, decoupling, bans or sanctions, or even a possible invasion of Taiwan, and you'll be facing sanctions from all over the world. These are the things that I read out of this document. But there's more to come in future days. But for this topic, I'll just stop right here. Now let's turn to the fourth plenum itself. The first thing we'll notice about this plenum is that it had a very low attendance rate, probably the lowest one in record. They have 205 Central Committee members, that we call it CC members. But this time, there are only 168 of them attended the plenum. So namely, there are 37 of them missing from the conference. And for the alternate members, there were altogether 171, but 24 missing, so only 147 attended the plenum. So altogether, 61 full members and alternate members missing from the plenum. So the attendance rate was only 84%, probably the lowest one ever since the conclusion of the Cultural Revolution back in 1969. But one more thing that's much noteworthy is that the missing rate of the military members from these two bodies, be them full members or the alternate members, the missing rate for the military people was 63%. Can you imagine that? 3 out of 2 were missing from the plenum. And as we mentioned before, they purged many generals and many military background people in the past few years, as we mentioned before. And I remember that prior to the convention of this meeting, of this plenum, we did an episode about the purge of 9 3-star generals. After the plenum, they issued an official communique. In the communique, they also mentioned these 9 generals. But there's one major difference. In the announcement made by the National Defense Department, one of the generals mentioned was the commander of the Rocket Army by the name of Wang Houbin, General Wang Houbin. But this name, General Wang Houbin, was missing from the communique of the 4th plenum. And instead, in his place, another name was mentioned, who is the commissar of the rocket force, instead of the commander of the rocket force, by the name of Zhang Fengzhong. So there's a big discrepancy between these 2 announcements, although those of them are official. We cannot figure out why. I'm still working on it. If there's something comes up, I'll let you know. But also from the scenes broadcast in the Central TV, the Chinese Central TV, we know something unusual. In general, in the conference hall, people were packed up, and they sat in lines of chairs and with tables in front of them, and with teacups and documents in front of them, and things like that. But this time, when we checked the pictures very carefully, we noticed something. There were altogether 3 empty rows, somewhere in between among the seats. 2 of them were totally empty and blank. But one of the 3 rows, apparently there were some people who were sitting there, because we noticed there's still teacups remaining on the table. So that's kind of unusual. And strangely enough, altogether the broadcast time was about 24 minutes, and the the empty rows showed up more than about 10 times. So again, that's kind of unusual. We have to work on that. One of the most striking abnormality we've observed about this plenum is the composition of the CMC, the Central Military Commission. We mentioned that there were altogether 7 members originally. There were 7 members for this Central Military Commission, for this CMC. And some of them were missing for a period of time, and then it's been announced that they're being purged, like the number 3 guy, General He Weidong, a 3-star general, purged and being officially announced this time. And then 2 more were gone. So 3 of them were gone, and only 4 of them remained in this previously 7-member body. But this time they promoted 1 general, 1 3-star general, to the position of vice chairman of the CMC in place of the purged He Weidong. And this gentleman is by the name of Zhang Sengmin, who was the head of the disciplinary sector. So we don't know his new division of labor. But anyway, they'll make an announcement later on. Another strange thing about this CMC is the defense minister, General Dong Jun, a 3-star general, who's been promoted to this position, to the position of defense minister for more than 2 years, perhaps. And according to a routine, he should be promoted to become one of the CMC members, but he hasn't got that, and that's really unusual. So that some people speculate that he might be under investigation, or he might be implicated in one of the cases, but we don't know. But anyway, he's not been promoted to the CMC membership. So that's something that we have to watch in the future. But in addition, other than these people, there are some rumors and also speculations about some purged generals or generals who are still under investigation but hasn't been officially announced yet. Let me not bother you with the Chinese names. Let me just read out their position and their title so that you know how important these people are. The first one is a commissar of the Eastern Theater. The second is a commander of the Western Theater. The third one is the commander of the Northern Theater. The fourth one is the commander of the Central Theater. There are altogether 5 theaters, and the 4 of them are, there's a 5th one, the commissar of the Central Theater. So there are 10 top leaders in these 5 theaters, but 5 of them are gone in this list, on top of what we mentioned before. So literally almost all 10 of them are now either being arrested, purged, or at least under investigation. And in addition, there are more to come. Now, the commander of the Army, and the commissar of the Navy, and commissar of the Armed Police. So tell me what you think. If you are an outsider, if you're an outside watcher of the Chinese politics or Chinese political struggle, tell me what you think. I know what's on your mind. But anyway, so that leads us to one last question: the political status of Xi Jinping himself. As I mentioned before, there are so much rumors and speculations about his whereabouts, about how stable he is on his position, and how much challenge he's facing, and how many people want to oust him. And people are even name names like former Premier Wen Jiabao, or former Secretary General Hu Jintao, or another vice chairman of the CMC, 3-star general Zhang Youxia. People like that. You can make up a long list. But like I said, I had some reservations about it all along. I always thought that, let me make this clear. I know for sure there must be lots and lots of political struggles among these top leaders, among themselves, and between Xi Jinping and his followers, be they civilian officials or military generals. Well, and also the officials, the civilian officials and the military generals may be suspicious about Xi Jinping and may be doubtful about his policies and things like that. So there are all kinds of, using their jargons, contradictions among them. But I mentioned to you before, I remember this. I mentioned that, yeah, maybe there are so many people that are not happy about Xi Jinping, but under a dictatorship like that, I guess very few people would dare to make the first move unless somebody make the first move. Otherwise, no one will probably dare to make the first move. So that's usually the case. And personally, I think that's the case. So what I'm saying is, unless Xi Jinping really shows his weakness, shows his Achilles heel, or he has some major problem with his health, or some people are reckless enough to make the first attempt at his life or his power base. Otherwise, I don't think that very many people would dare to try that. So there are so many challengers, potential challengers for his post, for his power, but so far his political base is basically stable and safe. The question is, we don't know how long it's going to last. That's something that we do need to keep an eye on. So I guess we have covered so much material for today. And there's more to come, but let's save them for the next time. So this is what I want to share with you today. I hope you like it. And please share it with your friends if you haven't done so. And please subscribe to it. And if you haven't done so, and remember to click the icon bell. And that's all for today. I'll see you next time.